Well, good morning. It is Friday, May 2nd, 2025. It's, well, I don't know what time it is. It's in the morning. We've been underway about 3 hours. It's almost 10 o'clock, I think, 9:30-ish, something like that. Got underway at 7 o'clock this morning from New London. And the Thamesport Marina there, and we've been motoring at about a third power, about a half power all morning, because we've had absolutely calm winds. Just now starting, you'd see the windmill going there, just now starting to get a little bit of wind that we may be able to hold a point on. We're here at Race Rock Light, which is the far west side of Fisher's Island. We'll round this lighthouse and start making our way. We're going to try to make it to West Island, which is just the other side of New Bedford today. We'll see if I continue. Once I get to Point Judith, if I decide, yeah, okay, I may stop at Point Judith. If I've got good wind and I can make it before dark, I'll continue on to West Island, just the other side of New Bedford, like I said. And that'll put me in a good spot to try to get to the canal, maybe tomorrow, and see where we go from there. We'll make that decision when we find out how far we get today. It's kind of nice out. It's reasonably warm. I mean, I'm bundled up, but that's, the water temperature is still 50, 53 degrees. So any breeze blowing off the water is chilly. But it's nice out. It's a little hazy, but it's very nice out. Just starting to get into a little sea swell because we're, exposed out here. We've got, Block Island just off in that direction, Montauk over there, here's Fisher's Island. And if I was to keep going straight, I'd run right on out into the Atlantic. So we're getting a little sea swell. It'd be another half hour and I'll feel I'm safe enough around Race Rock that I can make the turn here and go. I'm about to set the jib. I've got the main up. And it's kind of holding the breeze a little bit, but I may set the jib and see if we can get a little extra push here because the wind is just starting to move the flag a little bit. Here in an hour or so, it's supposed to start swinging out of the southwest, and this afternoon it's supposed to be blowing, 15, 18 miles an hour. So that'll give us a good push once that starts. So we will see how far we get today. But it's nice. I've been motoring, like I say, for about 3 hours and it's quiet, With the diesel, I'd be just about fed up right now with the noise. So this is a good thing. And I'm starting to learn what I can do with this system I have right now. We're running about 1600 RPM right now, drawing, let's see here, 12 and a half amps. So, I've got 400 amps of capacity at full. Actually like 420, but call it 400. So, I could motor at this speed for a good little while. Only problem is we're only doing about 2.5 knots. So make a call, get the new reduction gear for the motor and see if we can't get a little more speed out of her. I'm sure that'll increase the power draw as well, but it'd be nice to be able to get a little more power out of this thing. And I think it's just a matter of getting the right reduction gear on it. So anyway, let's pull the jib. See if we can't start sailing. I think we're going to start getting some wind here any time now. So let's get her going. Well, here we are. It's 11:15. and we are becalmed. And I'm keeping the electric motor running just enough that I'm making about 1/4 of a knot, basically just stemming the tide. The wind that was promised, well, now it's looking like 12:30, 1 o'clock before I have any wind. And I have finally come to the determination that I am no longer going to use the Orca app. Orca was a thing that I ran into that, they have this marvelous sailing gizmo that you can spend a lot of money and buy, or you can just buy their app and use it without all of the instrumentation and whatnot, and it'll do, as long as you have internet, it will do route planning and all of that sort of stuff. You put in the parameters of your vessel, and it will look at tides and winds and give you a proposed route based on that information to give you the most efficient way to get to your destination. This is the 3rd time since I've started using this for that purpose, where it has sent me out, put me up against a current, and left me becalmed against the current. So needless to say, I do not recommend Orca, nor will I ever use it again. So the Windy app had said that in the morning I was going to have about an 8-mile-an-hour wind, and then around 11 it was going to be blowing 12, 13, 14 miles an hour, and then this afternoon it was going to be, in the 20s area of wind. And now it's saying, well, that's really not going to happen until about 1 o'clock. So it is the weather, I get it, but when I was using just raw information and making my own determinations, I don't remember getting into this situation as much. Also, I'm on the south side of Fisher's Island because that was the direction that the Orca app said was the most efficient way to go. Before I used the Orca app, I had planned to do the north side of the island just because it was a shorter distance. But didn't turn out that way. Had I been on the north side of the island, there would have been 2 or 3 places where I could have dropped the hook and just waited for the wind to pick up. But out here, I'm in, 80 feet of water, so I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to stem the tide so I don't go backwards, and hope that the wind does in fact pick up. But technology, when it works, it's great, but I think Orca's got a little ways to go yet before they'll get my trust back. Unfortunately, it cost me like $45 for the app. But hey, live and learn. It won't get renewed, let's put it that way. But we're in a roll. We're getting a sea swell. So we're not absolutely flat, but there's not a whisper of wind. Not a whisper of wind out here right now. Hopefully it does pick up, or I'm just going to have to, I'm only going to run the motor I'll take the batteries down to 50%, maybe 45%, but when I hit that, I'm drifting. And if I don't have wind, I'll drift to wherever I drift to until the wind picks up, and then we'll go. So now I'm looking at, maybe it'll be Point Judith and not the other side of New Bedford over at West Island. So if I can make Point Judith tonight, maybe we can make New Bedford tomorrow. So stay tuned. We'll let you know where we go. Well, 10 minutes past 12, and we've just barely been making any way against the tide to the point where the GPS has just said, yeah, we'll let you know when you've moved the distance because you're not really moving. But here about 10 minutes ago, the ripples started forming on the water, and I started feeling a little breeze. My yarns on my shroud started to wiggle, and then when the blades on the wind turbine started to turn, it's like, okay, the wind is starting to pick up. So we set all plain sail. I have the full main, full jib out. We're on a reach on the starboard tack, but we're still motor sailing and only making 2.5 knots. So, but we are on course now for Point Judith, and we'll stop there tonight. If I was to be doing 5 or 6 knots right now, we're about 24 miles from Point Judith. So it's going to be 5 o'clock before we get there. So yeah, that's where we're going to stop. And we'll figure out what we're going to do tomorrow once we get there. But we'll go to Point Judith for tonight. Hopefully these winds will continue to build the way they're forecast to do. And we'll be able to stop the motor. We're running at about 64% power right now. 64% still in the batteries, that is. We're still running at about half motor power. And we started at like 72%, 73%, and we're down to about 63 or 4 now. I forget what it was when I looked a minute ago. Still over 60% with a little ways to go. So everything's doing fine. I'm just gonna have to run the generator. I sure will be glad when I get those solar panels on this boat. But I will have to run the generator tonight just to build the bank back up a little bit. I want to make sure I have lots of power in the bank when I get to the Cape Cod Canal, so I'm not sweating getting through there. So we'll run the motor in the generator for a little while tonight, and probably a little more tomorrow before we go through the canal, if we even get to the canal tomorrow. So, but anyway, finally got some wind, so we're sailing. Hoo-yah. Gotta like that. Well, here is a screenshot of the Windy app. And you can see here, I'm at the X. And you can see here it says I should have 14 knots of wind. And this is a video of what we have right now. And this is the way it's been all day. You can see my little tail right here. I'll zoom in for you. There you go. That doesn't look like 14 knots of wind to me. Not at all. So we are motoring still and not going anywhere, because basically we're just stemming the tide. Well, maybe the wind will come sooner or later. Let's hope. Well, now it is 4:12. And just like somebody flipped a switch, we have wind. And we're now making 4.5 knots, 5 knots, under all plain sail. And the motor is secured. Hallelujah. We'll see what happens between now and sundown. Well, it's 6:18. We still have 9.6 miles to the anchorage at Point Judith. We're making 2.6 knots under power because I'm running her at about half throttle. And we're rolling so much that I pulled the main down because it was just flogging. There is not enough wind, and it's like, is it wind or is it just the boat rocking back and forth that I'm feeling? And I'm thinking it's the boat rocking back and forth that I'm feeling. But the wind that we had a little while ago, we were doing 5.5 knots for 20 minutes. And then just as quick as it came up, it went down and it was over. So I've got the sails down, the jib was just flogging. I've put up with the main for as long as I can. It was just flogging. And so now we're motoring. I'm at 49% on the batteries. So, we burned about 25% getting here. So hopefully I'll still have battery power and I can get into this anchorage tonight. I'm going to be running the generator all day tomorrow. I don't know if I'll go anywhere tomorrow. We'll see what the winds are. But for a day where I thought, okay, it's going to be light, but I'm going to be reefed by the time I get here. Nothing, no wind. Don't know what to say. It's getting hard to trust any of the weather forecasting apps and whatnot because, well, it's an inexact science and I'm just frustrated. So I'm sorry for venting, but I'm wishing I had some wind. That's all. But this is sailing. If I didn't have all of these resources saying this is what the thing is going to be, well, then I'd be out here going, well, we just don't have any wind today. But when I have 2 or 3 sources telling me that there's going to be enough wind that I'm going to need to reef my sails, and there's none, kind of makes me wonder what's going on. That's all. But it's going to be dark, and hopefully we get in there before midnight. Who knows? At least the current is going the other direction now, so we're getting about a 1/2 knot push. I think the most we'll get is maybe 3/4 of a knot going in this direction, where we were pushing a 1.5 knots going the other direction. Go figure that, huh? But this is just going to be what this is. So next report, hopefully we'll be at Point Judith in the anchorage, in the port of refuge, and we'll be anchored. And hopefully the batteries last that long. If not, we're going to be drifting out here, and if we get drifting too close to shore, we'll just have to anchor wherever we end up at. So I can start the generator and start putting the charge back into the batteries. We'll let you know how it all turns out. Another day in the life here. Whoa, and here comes some lines flying around. We'll get things a little better secured.